You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Reframing, episode 135. Hello and welcome to the last Small and Supercharged podcast of 2020. Don't worry, I'm back next week. But the last show of 2020, as this should be going out on the eve of New Year's Eve. And I think we can all agree it's been quite a year. So I was trying to think of how I could kind of round up the year. And what I've done is I've written a bit of a few notes about what I've learned from 2020. And I want to throw down the gauntlet to you. And I want you to tell me what you've learned from 2020. The positive things. You can also chuck a negative in. And I have got a few points on here that aren't quite so positive. But I would love to know what you have learned. So I'm going to really encourage you to do an Instagram story today and tag me. Say what I've learned from 2020. And please tag me because I really want to see what you've been up to. I really, really do. And I want to see what you've learned because it's been quite a year. And I cast my mind back to last year. And if someone had said to me then, you know what's going to happen in March next year, in 3 months' time, you're going to be like not really allowed to leave your house for more than an hour a day for months. Schools will close, businesses will close. Like I would have honestly thought they were on something really strong. And I'd have gone, I don't think so. You know, this time last year, it was all about Brexit. And I know that'll be very much at the fore at this time as well. But, you know, this time last year we were, I think they just had an election and that was all that we really had, not to worry about because obviously everyone's very different. But I still can't quite believe what's happened in a year at all. And if you have had a really rough year, and I know some people have, I'm going to give you a virtual hug. I mean, A, because this is a podcast, and B, because of coronavirus, but I know it's tough. But the fact that you have battled on through to the end of this year is a massive achievement in itself. So take that away, if nothing else. So here are some things that I have learned from 2020, and I think that some you'll absolutely relate to. And as always, I'm going to be really honest about them, and I think that hopefully you'll relate to some, you'll be able to chuckle at some, you'll nod at some. And yeah, let's get cracking. So the first thing is the value of community. And I know that in previous times, you know, you met up with people in person, you had networking groups or events and things like that. And obviously this year it's been very, very different. But because of the tech we have available, we are able to form, grow and be part of communities in a much more remote way. So a big shout out to the Small and Supercharged Facebook group and then the membership groups above that kind of take that community and that support to the next level. But the Small and Supercharged group, the free one that you are very, very welcome to join if you haven't already, is incredible. We've got about 2,600 members now. It grows quite literally every day. It's the most amazing place, and people can pop in if they're having a challenging time to ask how people are navigating certain situations. And this year I've noticed people really turning to the community so much more to ask those difficult questions, to say, I'm having a tricky time. How are you navigating this? How do you deal with this problem? And the lovely thing about the community, we have very few rules in the community, but one of them is, you know, be kind. And I have to say that obviously I'm the admin for the group, so I see what goes on. And the only things I ever have flagged are when people advertise when they shouldn't do, which is fine, and there aren't that many of those. But I never have an issue with people not being kind. People can be opinionated and spirited, and that's fine. But there is always that underlying respect there, and that's what you want in a community. You want the respect there. And community is so important, and I honestly think having the right community around you for 2020 or beyond is so crucial to your success and your happiness. And there are obviously loads of different forms that community can take. Online is just one aspect of it, but obviously this year online has been really, really crucial from a community point of view. And I just think it's become even more important because we haven't been able to have those outlets where we go and see people in real life and have meetups and things like that. And the great thing is that with the tech we've got, we can still be part of communities online. So what I've learned from 2020 is I knew community was important before, but my God, its shiny, gilded importance it's just gone next level this year. And I think that actually the work that people have put into reaching out to people, to forming those connections and to being good members of communities will carry them really well into 2021 and beyond, because regardless of how the world changes, having those connections, being able to reach out to people, to share a kind word or to offer help and to not be judging them and not being negative online is incredible. Now, of course, there are lots of quite negative communities out there as well that become kind of bitch fests and things like that. And they're definitely ones to really keep away from, because you do become like the people you hang out with. So when you work with a community, when you're part of a community, make sure it serves you well, because you will become part of it, and it will, the kind of vibe in there will affect you. So make sure you're picking a good one. But the value of good community cannot be overemphasized. It can be an absolute game changer. I guess connected to this as well is that I'm very lucky that I've got some incredible friends, and I'm sure you have too. But the fact that the true friends there are the ones that reach out to you and send you a crazy TikTok or a funny voice note, or can sense when you're feeling a bit meh and send you a WhatsApp or something like that. Find these people out. Nurture these friendships that really do mean a lot to you. You don't have to have millions of people like this. Millions of people in your inner circle is not sustainable, or you'd be doing all the day. But even if you've been burned in the past, if you've been burned in 2020, or the year before, or the year before, or the year before, there are still some absolute gems out there. And when you find those people, hold them really close. Put that work in, nurture those relationships, because when you're having a challenging day and you can't see anyone and you can't go out for a drink to the pub, you can't go out for a coffee with a friend, they're the ones you can ping a message to and say, I am having a mare, and they go, what's up, tell me all about it. And they actually care. So the value of friendship, and the great thing is these people don't even have to be in your town or your county or even your country. Because of how well connected we are online now, these friendships can be global. And I know this year I'm really lucky that I've got some incredible friends all over the world. And I know that I've turned to people and people have turned to me at different times. And it's so lovely to be able to find these like-minded souls that you have the same crazy sense of humour and can just be on a Zoom giggling for God knows how long because something's just really tickled you. But find these people out. Because you can't see people face to face in real life, it doesn't mean that you can't see people, connect with them. It's not quite the same. It's not the same as being able to give someone a hug when they're having a bad time. And I actually had something a couple of months ago where a friend who I had seen for a walk was very upset about something, and I was unable to give her a hug. I sent her some chocolate instead. I thought that was the next best thing. But, there have been hard times like that, but also the fact that you can then pick that conversation up at home. You can make sure they're okay. You can send them a message. It's really important. Keep those connections open. Even if you can't connect, make sure you stay connected and use the online services. The next thing is that Zoom fatigue is a real thing. Not that long ago, I did 6.5 hours of Zoom and lives on one day. And honestly, by the end of it, I could barely string a sentence together. I normally work quite long hours. It's not like I do an hour a day. I'm not in the office a long time, especially Mondays and Fridays. I'm in the office till 6. And then I work in the evenings as well if I need to. But being on Zoom, I don't know what it is. In some ways, it's more tiring than a physical event. If you're giving webinars and things like that, it obviously you don't have the travel issue, but honestly, I could barely string a sentence together. And I'm not doing a great job now on this podcast of showing you how well I can string sentences together, but but it's a real thing. And initially you kind of think, well, I don't have to leave the house. I can chat to someone in, I don't know, Essex, and then someone in New Zealand, and someone here, here, and here. And then you get to the second one and you're like, I'm so tired. It is tiring. It absolutely is tiring. So if you're thinking, I just can't deal with another live, another webinar, another Zoom, another this, another that, it's tiring. It's not just you, it's tiring. Cut yourself some slack. You've done amazingly. Now, this one is probably not the same for everybody, but I know for a lot of people that I work with, workloads have increased. And that could be because they've had members of their team who are furloughed, or because they've had more online orders because people are shopping from home more and they're buying things online, or people are trying to do all things and push themselves forward more and get those sales that they can't make in normal ways. But for a lot of people, even when you kind of think, oh, people will be doing less work because various things were closed, I think for a lot of people their workload went up, and not just from a business point of view as well. I think particularly around the kind of end of March when we had the full-on lockdown. I know I had my children at home because obviously nursery was closed, and they were brilliant. They were really well behaved. But then instead of just taking them to nursery, doing as much work as I could in that time window, picking them up from nursery, knowing that I'd actually done a good job, really achieved, you had another whole job, like trying to bring the children on because they were starting school in September. So trying to make sure you were doing the right things there to help them. And if you've been, not actually just if you've got children at school or children at nursery, but I know particularly that's been really, really difficult for a lot of people to try and juggle their work and try and grow their business still, or at least maintain their business, especially if they're self-employed. Then try to deal with childcare or dependent parents, or even people who are helping their local community. There's an awful lot of stuff to do. There's been an awful lot of stuff to do. And people have been incredible. They're starting initiatives to raise money. I know, and again, massive shout out to Dressage Anywhere, who they suspended their competitions for a short while because that was the guidance given. And they changed their focus to do hobby horse dressage, to raise money for the NHS charities, which was incredible. And I know with that, although the money was going to charity, there was still a huge amount of work involved with that. And I think that I've seen a lot of this. I've seen a lot of people who are going above and beyond to raise money for charity, to look after their local community, do nice things. And that has all added to people's workloads, even if they've been furloughed or they're spending more time at home. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. I think everyone has had to dig really deep this year. However they've looked at it, they've had to really dig deep to keep going, because it has been like a real roller coaster. And I think for so many people, their workload has absolutely increased. And for some as well, the mental kind of, well, for most people, let's be honest, I think the mental drain of the year as well is really quite significant. And again, I think that that's a kind of whole new level of pressure that we hadn't had until now. So if you are in that situation where you're trying to balance work, if you're at a yard and you've got time windows, if you've got the children at home, if you're trying to make sure your relatives or neighbours have got food, it's another extra pressure. And I think it can make you feel guilty and like you're not doing enough all the time, or that you're doing too much in one area, or that you're never getting on top of anything. So yeah, it's gone up. What else I've learned is my tech knowledge has improved. Now, I'd like to think I'm fairly good anyway, she says modestly. Obviously before I did a lot of Facebook Lives, I used Zoom, to record on my podcasts. I'd use other software as well. But this year, I mean, I've had so many different bits of software come into my world. Recording this, I've just been on a webinar, which was a go-to webinar. I use StreamYard quite a bit now. I still use Zoom. I used Skype before. I've been using Facebook video. What did I use the other day? MS Teams. So many things. So many things. And I wouldn't say I'm great at all of them. I'm strongest on Zoom because I use it the most. And StreamYard, I'm not bad on StreamYard. But I feel like my tech knowledge has improved no end. And I guess not just the kind of knowledge of the individual platforms, but actually the ability to say, oh, screw it, it can't be that hard. It can't be that hard because I can use this one, this one, this one, and this one. And just having that kind of foundation knowledge, I guess, which allows you to be a bit more confident moving forward. So I think my tech knowledge has improved, and I reckon that's probably true for the vast majority of the UK as well. I mean, we've all been like hopping on Zooms, popping on FaceTimes, everything like that. So that's definitely something positive to take away from this year. Whether or not you like Zoom or you loathe it or you love FaceTime or you don't, the fact you can use it is a good thing. Another thing is that there have been far more opportunities out there for people who are wanting to take those opportunities, because the geographical limitations of previous times didn't exist. So I've been doing an awful lot of work with Enterprise Nation, which is brilliant. Big shout out to them. And they're based in London. And I've been doing a lot of their lunchtime webinars. I've also been doing quite a bit with the She Means Business campaign, for which I'm an accredited trainer. And in addition to doing bits for people for my area and for the equestrian community, as I'm the equestrian kind of lead, I've also been giving them on the Enterprise Nation Facebook page, which has got a really large audience, and it's lovely to have that opportunity to be able to do things regardless of geographical location. I've also spoken at a few virtual events, ran tables, been to awards ceremonies, lots of things that before could have potentially been quite difficult to get to, especially ones that are just for a short amount of time. They wouldn't have been practical to pop to London for a half an hour webinar. But because there have been no geographical limitations, because with tech, as long as the time works, you're sorted, it's great. It's great to be able to have that. And I've really relished that. And actually, beyond that, there have been more opportunities to get involved with things. And also, I think just more opportunities in general. I think because it's not expected that you travel to a location to do something. I know for me, I've been much more putting myself forward for things because I haven't had to think, oh gosh, if I'm doing that, I've got to make sure that I've got childcare, or I've got to make sure that I can stay away that evening, or that this can happen or this can happen. I've just been able to go for it because I know it's going to be done through Zoom or through MS Teams or whatever. So I've been able to seize more opportunities because there's been no geographical limits, which is amazing. And that's been something that I've really enjoyed. And it's not something it's something that I hope moving forward there will be more opportunity to do things like that, because, and not just to like speak or present or talk at these things, but I also really hope that the opportunities will be there to become, sort of getting a ticket to go to a big event for a learning point of view. Actually, there'll be an online option where you can watch the recordings in your own time. And I know this year it's been amazing to be able to go and watch the various talks and things back for events that I've spoken at. But I really think that it's really positive if people can engage in a virtual way. Even when things go back to some kind of normal, I think that is a really positive thing that people will be taking forward. There's some incredible software and some apps and various things that have been developed this year to help accommodate this issue. And I really hope that that's something that people will continue with, because I just think that the access we've got now to education, to learning, to opportunities is just next level, because you just don't have to have this kind of barrier to entry. Even if you can afford the time, if there's an event in Scotland, and I live in Worcestershire, and that's like a big commitment to, if I want to go to something, even if I really, really want to go to something, it's going to cost me a lot in fuel or travel. It's going to cost me a lot in time. And actually, if it's a really great conference that lasts a day, I'm probably going to need 3 days, and I'm going to need I'm going to need to pay, obviously, to get there, to the fuel, for the accommodation, or I could just buy an online ticket, dip in and out, watch things on replay in my own time, get involved in things in real life. Actually, the Enterprise Nation, I was nominated and actually won the Top 50 Advisors Award, which is an Enterprise Nation one, and they had a really cool online online awards ceremony, and it was a really great mixture of kind of lives and it was a live sort of presentation with slides with the different people on it. Then there was a music aspect of it. Then there was a networking part of it, and the platform was incredible. So we've got so much more now. We've got all of this there, and it would be lovely to be able to think that a lot of these things could also have a virtual element moving forward. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, a lot more opportunities available as no geographical limitations, and more opportunity to not just get involved, but to kind of participate in different ways. So if you're a speaker or if you're a attendee, all sorts of things. The next thing, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, is all about the power of the mind. And I've actually very recently, well, a few weeks ago, become a certified NLP practitioner, because obviously through the work I do with my clients, I do a lot of mindset stuff anyway. But I had one of those chats with somebody and something came up and I thought, yeah, I'm going to make sure that I have got that certification. But I think that we've learned as well that the power of the mind is incredible, and even more so than before, because we can't control a lot of the stuff that's happened in 2020 has been completely out of our control. Even down to whether or not you can go on an hour and a half dog walk versus an hour's dog walk has been out of our control. So I think being able to take back that control, to be able to think, okay, how can I make this better? Well, I can't make the world better, obviously I can do as we're being told and follow the rules, etc., etc. But what can I do? How can I reframe this? And I know for me, I've done an awful lot of reframing, and I've often been thinking about, okay, what is this teaching me? So when something's hard, what is this teaching me? How can I learn from this? How can I improve this? And I'm not perfect all the time. I don't know anyone that is, genuinely. But, how can you improve things? What can you do to get those kind of positive chemicals, or the happy chemicals, as Jackie McCormick, if you haven't listened to that, listen to that. It's a really good podcast. On this one, go back a few, would say, what can you do to make that work for you? Because if you can reframe things, if you can take what people are saying to you and then actually look at it from the other point of view, put yourself in their shoes, if you can work on it like that, everything becomes a better place. And I think that's been a really important thing. And I've seen so many people who are doing a lot more with mindset, whether they're having coaching or they're doing training like I have to be a practitioner, or they are, exploring it in other ways, or even just giving themselves the space to go, yeah, actually, I'm struggling today, and not just keeping it hidden. Obviously, we know that for years there's been quite a stigma around things like mental health, and I know mental health and mindset are quite different. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm an expert in mental health at all, but I think that this has really been brought to the fore during 2020 with people who have really struggled because they've been isolated, or they felt incredibly lonely, or they've had money worries, or they've had poorly parents, poorly friends. There's been an awful lot going on, and there's been a lot in the media very positively helping point people in the direction of help, which I think has been massive as well. But I think because people are just so much more aware that it's okay to be having a really rough day, it's okay to be having a rough week, there are things you can do to help, there are people you can go and see to help you. I think that we've all become so much more aware of the power of our mind and how we can do a lot to improve a situation from a mindset point of view. And if we can catch ourselves going down that path, we can do an awful lot too. So I think the power of the mind is something that I obviously did know about it before. As I said, I've been coaching for years now, and I know that so much of the time that obviously we talk about all the strategies behind it, but sometimes it's giving that person that sort of nudge and going, I know you can do this. I've absolutely got every confidence in you. You can absolutely do this. Come on. We can do it. You can do it. I'm going to help you. I've got your back on this. Can make such a world of difference. But yeah, this year I think it's been publicised a whole lot more, and I think that's brilliant. So power of the mind. Next one, actually this could have been connected to the tech knowledge, but tech fails happen to everyone. So I don't know about you, but if I'm doing a live, I don't now have to say this is worn off, and this is a good thing to learn for 2020. But whenever I was doing a live or a Zoom or anything like that, I would always worry that I would have a tech fail. I would worry that the broadband would blip and would cut me off or do something horrible, because it does, right? But I would get quite worried about it. Whereas since I've been using it every day for hours a day, I kind of just assume it's going to do something stupid now, but also that I'll deal with it when it does. So I got kicked out of a Zoom the other night, actually. It was to do with something at the boys' school. I got kicked out of a Zoom, and I didn't panic. I swore, I'll be honest with you, I did swear, but I just went back on in there. Just clicked on the link again and went back in. Obviously, sometimes the fails are slightly more pronounced. I remember, right back in March, I was doing Instagram Live, I think it was, actually, with Vic from Equiboodle, and I froze so many times, and it was painful, and I apologise to anyone watching that. It was painful, and I got very stressed about that, because that was early in the pandemic, and when you felt like you were the only one having the tech fail, but you're not. You're absolutely not. I think just watching the press conference shows that everyone can have tech fail. The amount of times I've shouted at the television, "You're on mute!" But it doesn't matter, because I think we've become a lot more accepting of tech fails. We know everyone has tech fails. And we also now have got that foundation of knowledge to know how to fix the tech fails, which is really important. So tech fails happen to everyone. Don't sweat it. No one cares. In the nicest possible way. It's not a cause for stress. This one as well, I don't know if this is something that other people are having as well, but for me now, if it's not a hell yes, it's definitely a no. Because when we say no to things that don't light us up, that don't inspire us, that don't excite us, we give the other things that do excite and inspire us more space in our world. And that's so important. I think a lot of time we feel we should always say yes to things. And don't get me wrong, I say yes to a lot of things because I want to do them. I am excited to do them. I feel there's a good reason to do it. I think it's going to stretch me or educate me or be something that pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I'm all in on those things. But I think as well, I know when I've said yes to something and I get that kind of horrible sinking feeling. And I just think, nope, that should have absolutely been a no. Because it's not a kind of nervous, excited energy I get. I just get almost like there's a stone just moving through my body. Just like, why would you do that? And I think that probably linking back to the fact that there are more opportunities now because there are no geographical limits. By saying no to things that don't light you up, you're allowing yourself to take advantage of these amazing things that do. And there are more of those than ever now because there is so much more. The tech's so much better. There's so much there. So for me, I think if it's not a hell yes, it should really be a no. And that's something that I'll definitely be taking forward beyond this year. Because I know that when I'm all in on something, I love it. I feel like I've got kind of boundless energy on it. I feel I can really push myself. I can really over deliver. I can really do a good job. But when I feel like it's a no, everything feels like I am wading through treacle and I'm just focusing in on the end goal. And that doesn't mean it's something that I'm worried about or scared of or nervous about, because I see that quite differently. But you'll know what I mean. You'll have had those things that you're going, yeah, that's fine. And then you think, why did I do that? So to me, that's definitely something I'm going to be taking forward. If it's not a hell yes, it's definitely a no. And I think my kind of final thought is that if 2020's taught us anything, it's that nothing is really that certain. I didn't expect this. I mean, you might have gazed into your crystal ball this time last year and thought, it's going to happen March time. But nothing is certain. So don't use that as something to feed your any kind of anxiety or anything like that. And I have been in that boat. I have absolutely used it to feed that. But now I think, well, if nothing is certain, and obviously I'm not going to kind of completely lose it and just sort of run away and live a hermit life, but why not go for those things that are a bit scary? Why not ask those questions? Why not push yourself a little bit? Why not get involved in things that you think are just on the edge of your stretch zone, but you think you can do? Why not be brave? What is the worst that's going to happen? Seriously, your pride gets a bit damaged? I mean, is that it? And I know, don't get me wrong, when your pride gets damaged, it absolutely smarts. We've all been there. But what could happen if it goes right? And with everything feeling unknown and feeling, like things can flip in an instant, because we've seen this year that they can. Obviously, we can plan and do our best not for that not to happen, but we can. The situations can change so quickly. Why not use that as actually, if I do something and it doesn't go well, it'll change soon. Use this kind of the way that this year's gone as a inspiration to kick you up the backside to do a bit more, to try new things, to push yourself. Because I think that's actually a really positive way to try and end the year, moving forward into 2021, looking to seize those opportunities, be a bit braver. Take a deep breath and go, what's the worst that's going to happen? We had a global pandemic like this year. That's horrific. And you're still here. You're listening to this, so you must be. So if you got through that, you can do anything. I think it's just a great opportunity. I think the year has just taught us so much. And obviously some of it's been horrific. I mean, a lot of it's been harrowing and horrific. I think it's also taught us how easily everything spread, to be honest. I mean, I can't even imagine standing in a queue at a supermarket now and not having a mask on and sort of covering myself in antibacterial gel every 5 seconds. So it's taught us a lot of things. Some of them negative, absolutely. But I'd really urge you to try and think of the positive things that have come out of this year. And when I talked about reframing, that here technology has improved, that's quite a good way of looking at, well, I have to be on Zoom all the time. Think about the positive spins that you can put on the challenges of this year, what you've learned and what you're going to take forward. So I'm going to love you and leave you. If you're listening to this in real time, I have got a little something for you. There's a competition over on my Instagram, and I think you're going to love it. So go and have a look. If you're not listening in real time, you should probably follow me anyway, because I do these things. But it's a way to celebrate the lovely Enterprise Nation Award, actually, and all your amazing support for 2020. And I would love you to enter it, because the prize is mega, and I'm very grateful for everybody who was involved with that too. So a big thank you for listening. Thank you for listening for the whole of this year and before that too. You don't know how much it means, and I love being able to chat to you every week, to introduce you to people that I think are incredible and have got really, really cool things to share. And I've got some amazing guests lined up for 2021. I've already speaking to you now, I've recorded 3 incredible interviews already. And I've got some others in the pipeline that are just going to be amazing for you. Well, and for me too. I'm going to love it. So massive thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, you can obviously find me in all the places. And if you aren't a member of the Small and Supercharged group yet, just find it on Facebook. Just type Small and Supercharged, and it's the one with the burgundy cover image. But also, if you want to really up the ante in 2021, don't forget there is the Extra and the Mastermind group. The Mastermind group particularly has been really growing this year, and it's amazing. We do a live every week. We have marketing and mindset masterclasses. I put opportunities in there from online and in print publications when I receive them. And the community is just insane. So if you want to find more about that, just pop over to my website, riafreemanpr.co.uk, and in the Work With Me drop down, or actually across the top menu, there is Small and Supercharged Mastermind. It is an application only group, but it would be lovely to have you there. Thank you so much for listening. Have a very happy New Year's Eve. I don't really get the hype about New Year's Eve, I'll be honest with you. I feel like we're setting ourselves up for a hard time. But eat, drink, be merry, and I'll see you in the new year. Thanks so much for listening to this. Take great care and we'll catch up really, really soon.